Adobe Live. We'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we are creating and streaming from today, and pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging. My name is Flynn Tracy, and I'm here with my good buddy and video and editing and everything nerd, Ian Haigh. Ian, how you doing?
I'm doing very well, Flynn. It's lovely to be with you this afternoon.
Yes, it is great. It is the afternoon, isn't it? 1 p.m. Here we are, here in Sydney, Australia. What's up, everybody that is watching around the world? If you're watching over on YouTube, the live chat that we use is at behance.net/live. So if you want your message or question to be seen as we're rolling along, make sure you throw it in there. What's up, Jeremy Lord in chat? Good to see you there. Johanna is looking after us here. And we're going to be spending some time understanding video editing. I love these streams because we kind of take things back to the basics and kind of unpack like what video editing is and how you might approach it and things like that with an expert. And Ian Haigh is our expert, and we always have lots of fun together. And I'm not great at video editing, so I'm going to ask heaps of dumb questions.
Love them. Love dumb questions. There's no such thing as dumb questions, but you're right. You know, just whatever question, anyone, Flynn, anyone in the chat, Jeremy Lord, if anyone's got a question, please sing out.
Yep, throw it in chat. So we're here for an hour. But before we get started with everything that we're going to be doing today, for those who don't know who you are, Ian, or some of the fantastic things that you do, can you give us a little bit of an elevator pitch of who Ian Haigh is, and maybe some of the things that you do before we get started?
Yeah, I could hear you flatten the vowel and pitch there, which is a little nod to my origin. I'm from Wellington in New Zealand, and people apparently still think that I sound like a Kiwi, which I'm pretty happy about. But I've been living here for quite some time, worked in London and Amsterdam, and made my way here in 2003, I think. And we worked in branding and design and became interested in video. So I do a bit of After Effects, a bit of Premiere, a little bit of 3D from time to time. And I do all that in my little company called Ketchup, which is like the tomato sauce, where I just kind of work with a variety of clients on a variety of projects and have a good time. And like you said, all in a very nerdy way.
Yes, we always geek out and talk about like productivity and efficiency and stuff. Yeah, we're fun at parties whenever we hang out. You mentioned you lived in Amsterdam, so were you ever in The Hague?
The Hague in The Hague, exactly. Yeah, I did. I was a Hague. I've been a Hague in The Hague. I should have had some Hague's chocolates, and it would have been the whole inception.
My God,
didn't think about it at the time.
Yeah,
but no, I've been to The Hague. I was in Amsterdam for 4 years, and what a great city.
Beautiful
that
place.
is. Absolutely stunning. Yeah, love it. Miss it a lot.
Oh, that's awesome. I can't believe I've never made that connection before, but yeah, I'm glad the answer was yes. That's awesome. Well, should we jump over to your screen? Maybe you can bring up your website or something like that. We'll have a look. Let's do that. Press the button, Flynn. Here we go.
Anyone who's interested in learning a little bit more about what I do, this is the Ketchup. So it's ketchup.net.au. So you can see some of the stuff, a bit of writing, a bit of filming, a bit of animation, a bit of everything. So that's just a little scatter reel there. If anyone recently been doing some copywriting as well. So did some labels for Mosh, the men's health brand. We've done lots of work with Spotify, with Chris Doyle and co. But also there's Winona School, Opera Australia. And so there's a good variety of things, some of the clients that we've worked on there. And then also I have a YouTube channel as well. So if you want some more tutorial type stuff with my Kiwi accent, then you're in luck, because I have quite a few bits and pieces over here. The URL is youtube.com/c/Ian Haigh, IANHAIGH. And it's just a whole bunch of different ways, just things that I find interesting, with predominantly sort of animation and editing on there.
Awesome. That's super cool. What does the C stand for in the URL? I can never...
Cool. I've got no idea. Yeah. No, I'm not sure. I don't know what that stands for. I don't know why you can't just go straight to, but I tried typing in the U before because I thought it was short for user, and it took me to a completely different site. So I don't know how it works. It's mysterious. Everything about YouTube is Serious to me.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, what's up, YouTube? Michael Murphy in the chat as well. Super cool. Thanks, Johanna. I shared the links in there, so if you want to check that out, there's some great tutorials and things like that in there. If you enjoy what you see today, even if you don't, go check it out. Give them a follow, like and subscribe. Let's jump over. We're going to be spending our time in Premiere, Premiere Pro.
That's right.
So let's check it out. Let's check out this this interface. Let us know in chat if you're new to Premiere Pro, or if you've played around with other video editing things. Do you just edit on your phone? Is it all about natively using TikTok these days? Let us know, like, your approach to video. I have no approach, but yeah, let's check out Premiere Pro.
Yeah, so this is Premiere Pro. There's a bunch of, your Premiere Pro might not look exactly like this. If I close this project, then you might just get a welcome window to make you feel at home. With some immediately, you've got some tutorials here. You can go online and find more tutorials. So Adobe have done an amazing job of making you feel welcome. They know that editing can be a little bit daunting, and so there's a bunch of materials out there and resources that you can grab and get stuck into. So what I thought we'd do today is I've kind of got this, I've made up a fictional business. And so for a lot of people, they might have a side hustle. They want to kind of, earn a bit of money doing something else. And they've created this great business, a great idea, and they want to promote it. And that might involve creating, maybe just filming on the phone and creating a little bit of an advertisement for their business, and then putting it onto like Instagram or, one of those social media platforms. And so my imaginary business is called Leaves on Things, and we put leaves on things. And I created this little, I'll show you the example that we have here. This is what I put together, all shot on my phone. And this is what we're going to be creating.
Hi, my name's Ian, and I put leaves on things. Why not leave us a message today?
Amazing. So you've cornered the leaves on things market, which is notoriously challenging to break into. A branch into.
It's early days. I don't know that I've cornered the market yet, but maybe with this social media video, it's going to help us gain that monopoly that we crave. So that's where we're at, and you'll be amazed to learn that was all shot on my iPhone. There was no expensive camera or anything. Well, I guess it is an expensive camera, but I was shot on an iPhone and then edited in Premiere Pro. Yeah. So that's kind of like where we're working towards. But this is for people who are brand new at it. So we'll start from scratch. I'm just going to close that, and we're starting just basic. I'm going to assume that you know how to launch applications and you've launched Premiere Pro. The first thing that you're going to want to do up here is fire up a new project, this big blue button. So we're going to press that, and it's going to come up with this new project window. What that is effectively asking you to do is give your project a name before you start doing anything. So they don't want you to have an untitled project. So here's the name of the project, and here's the location of the project where you want to save it. Now you can change it from the default. I'm going to click browse, and I'm going to navigate to the folder where I am saving it. It's in my work folder. I'll give this a brand new project is going to be the name of this one. And because this all looks a bit confusing or weird, I'm just going to ignore it and leave it on the default settings. And
that's my approach every time I see this window, and I'm like,
yeah,
I hope it's right.
Yeah, it's totally fine. Just ignore it. There you go. It's gone. Don't have to see it anymore.
Yeah.
Forget about it. So worried.
It's like a warning notification. I just close the window and everything's fine. It's great.
Exactly. And then it'll drop you into the brand new project. And it's given you a couple of little nice hints down here. You can see this one says import media to start. And this one says drop media here to create sequence.
Right.
So it's already given you a little bit of a clue. So we'll work our way through the different parts of the interface and what they mean, but let's take the hint here and import media to start. Right. So I obviously, if you've shot some media, or you've someone's provided you some media, or you've got your hands on it somehow, that's we're talking about media. Could be movie files from your phone, or it could be from a high-end cinema camera. It could be a still image like a bitmap, like a JPEG or a PNG file, or it could be music or audio. So media encompasses all of those kinds of things that you might want to use to compose a movie in Premiere. In this instance, these are the files that I shot on my phone, and before I imported them, and you might be excited to get started, but I like to sort of look at them, figure out what they are, and then give them a name. So here's one. This one's monkey. I've called it number 3 monkey, and that way I can very easily tell what file is which once I've imported it.
And you prefer to do that before you pop it in? It's just easy to do in the Finder before you bring it in. I'm sure you can rename it in Premiere Pro, but you just find that it's a bit easier to do it in the Finder. I
find it can be a little bit easier in the Finder, and also if it's got a unique name. So if I was being if I'm being really careful with your media files, because they're incredibly valuable, you don't want to have to go out and shoot everything again. Yeah. I would give everything a unique name. And that way, if you need to, if your media, you've stored it somewhere and then you need to pull it up again, you can find it because it's been named correctly. So I'm a bit obsessive about naming files correctly. So I think it's a good habit to get into. If you're keen to get started, I can appreciate why you would just chuck them straight in. But particularly with, if you look at the way that these files were named, before I put intro on the start here, it was just called IMG_3516. Now, if you've been shooting stuff on an iPhone for a while or sharing media with someone else, there is a good chance that you'll have more than one file with the same name.
Right.
And then it can get a bit tricky if you're trying to reconnect media and it's actually Premiere thinks that it's the file that you want, but it's actually a different file. So that's why I'd recommend naming the files beforehand.
Nice. Cool. I love it.
So I'm just going to select all of those files, and I'm just going to drag them straight to that helpful little label where it says import media to start. It goes import files, and they're shown all up.
Magic.
Now, the one small thing here, which might be worth just touching on, is that the way that these were shot, they're HDR files, and so Premiere has interpreted them. If I double click one, you'll see that it's a little bit blown out compared to what we had before. So the whites, it's very, very bright, and we're losing a bit of information.
Yep.
So normally, you might not have to worry about this, but in this instance, I'm just going to select them all, right click on one. I'll get all of these different options. The one that I'm looking for is modify, interpret footage. This is like a sidebar. Just consider this a sidebar.
This is awesome. I've never seen this before. I have definitely imported stuff and everything's looked rubbish. So
right. And then down here under color management, go to color space override, and then Rec 709. And now it's come back to something a little bit better.
Do we know what Rec 709 means?
Yeah, Rec 709 is like the standard like television color space, and so you've got all these different color spaces for different devices and so on. And Rec 709 is like absolute standard that has been used for decades and decades. And so if it's in that color space, then it's a good sort of starting point. Lots of people deliver in that color space, but at the risk of getting too technical, hopefully you don't need to do that, and that's probably the most technical that this is going to get today.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I like it. That's really great because, I think a lot of people will be importing, video files from their phones, like from their iPhones or Androids or whatever. And it's good. Like that's, might be something that I might end up having to color grade later on and like bring up things when I'm, getting ready to export it. And I'm like, it's not quite looking right, but that's a really quick solution.
Exactly.
That's great.
And if you're planning on putting leaves on things, you don't have time to be messing around.
Time for that.
No one's got time for that. So just click on that. It was just, once again, right click, go to modify, go to interpret footage, and then down here under color management, we're going to change that to Rec 709, and then all is well.
Beautiful.
So now that we've got a bit of media here, we can talk about what this panel does. So this is the project panel. It's got project at the start, brand new project is the label. That's the name that I gave this project when I made a new one. And I've just dragged everything in here. So it's a bit like, Windows Explorer or the Mac OS Finder. And that's where, your files live, all of your media. You can also make folders to organize things. And in Premiere, folders are called bins, which is a carryover from the old days of film, where they used to physically put actual celluloid into bins.
Right.
So it's kind of that's why it's pretty cool. So if I go down to this little icon here, it says new bin or bin, and here's a little shortcut for you. If I select all by dragging over it and drag all of those to that little icon, it'll put them all in a folder and then ask me to name it.
Oh, cool.
So we can already start getting organized. So I'm just going to call that footage. And right now it's showing up as an icon. If I double click that, you can see everything that's in there. And then there's a little icon right there, which takes me back up to the top level.
Right.
So double click into there, look inside, go back up. Now, before I double clicked one of these and it popped up in this window. So if I double click any one of those, it'll pop it up in this window. And this is the next thing that I wanted to show you about the interface. So we've got here the source window. And this is like where you can kind of preview the footage before you do something with it. And that's important because, especially if you've got tons of footage, you don't want to use everything. This whole clip is basically nearly 5 seconds long, and we don't want to use the whole thing. So this will let us preview the part of the clip that's interesting, the part of that movie that's interesting, and then use just the part that we want. Now, the next thing to think about is, where do all these clips go? And in Premiere, it's called a sequence. And a sequence you can think of as a timeline. That's where all of the media that you want to use lives. And that's where you arrange it, where you add things like music and titles and so on. And we can create a sequence very simply with default settings. There's sort of a couple of ways you can do it. One, if I go up to the File menu and click New, and then go up here, Sequence, you get this kind of window, which has got loads of options, and you're like, I don't understand, and I'm scared.
Yeah.
So we just press Cancel. And the other way of doing it is just drag one of your, assuming that they're all kind of like the same format, just drag one of these to this little new document icon. And it's made a sequence for us. And it's automatically put that sequence onto this image clip onto this timeline. And you can see that now this one looks slightly different. So this one, they look very similar. I'm going to give this a name. I'll call it Leaves Sequence. And that one's got a little icon that is indicates it's like different layers and a time scrubber, which is that blue thing.
Right, and that just tells you that it's in this timeline.
Yeah, this one's actually the sequence, and this one has got a little film clip. And as you can see, you are correct. It's telling you that it's being used. So video used one time. If I then click on this and hit delete, if you watch over here, then this little blue thing will disappear because it's not being used anywhere. But by dragging the clip onto that new document icon, it made a sequence that is the dimensions and the frame rate of the clip that we wanted. So it's just a much faster way to create a sequence. And if all of the other options in the new sequence dialog are too confusing, just drag it onto the new sequence button and hey presto.
There you go.
Yeah.
Cool.
It works as well, like by dragging a whole lot of stuff. So if you wanted to see everything at once, I could just drag everything onto that button and it'll make a sequence with all of the clips on there at once.
Yeah, that's probably the way I would do it, just to like put everything and kind of start thinking about what's first and what's last and things like that. Is that commonly what you would do, to grab it all and throw it in? Or would you add things kind of one by one?
That is exactly the next really important kind of way of thinking about it, is how do you put it together? And so I guess there's so many different ways to achieve it in Premiere, and you can do it in that way. So drag everything in there at once and then go and trim them and cut them all out however you like. Or I'll show you the other way first, because that way might be easier to grasp immediately. The other way of doing it is using the source window that we mentioned before. So here's the one. I'm going to start with the intro file, which is me basically introducing the company. I'm going to double click it, and then I can go through here. I've got several takes, and I want to choose the one that I like. And in order to see, to preview what we're working with, I just press the play button here.
Hi, my name's Ian.
Okay, so I like this clip here. There's several of them over here, but the one that I prefer,
Hello, my name's Ian,
is the one that starts over here, roughly. So you can see I'm dragging this blue. This is your time scrubber, and just by dragging that back and forth, I can go back or forth in the video. So,
hi, my name's Ian.
Stop there, and I'll just drag it back a little bit until I get it. I can always adjust it later as well. And the big thing to note here is the concept of in and out points. So an in point is where the video begins, and an out point is where it ends. And you can set an in and out point for various clips. So let's do one and see how that works. So if I was to just click on this picture and just drag it down here, we'll go keep existing settings. And now it's brought in the entire thing. I can then go back up here. You can make as many copies in your sequence as you like. So it's not like you can only use it once. You can use various parts of the video, keep using it. It's like this is an infinite, like you're never going to run out.
Right.
So we're going to make another one.
I like it.
It's an infinite, it's a bottomless pit. It's fantastic. So in this instance, I'll drag this into where I want to set the endpoint. And down here, you've got these buttons. Mark in, little bracket, and mark out. So if I mark in, you can see that this, from that point where the scrubber was to the very end, has now become highlighted. And now I'll press play again.
And I put leaves on things.
I'll press the space bar again to pause it, and I will set the out point. Okay, so you can see it's like I've selected a part of that clip. So whereas before we had the whole thing, and now we're just using a little bit of it. You've got these other nifty little buttons here, insert, overwrite. So if I press insert right now, I can show you the difference between those in a second, but I'll press insert, and it's brought in just the little clip that I'm interested in. So I can get rid of this original one.
Okay, so here's what I would do, not knowing about this, like how you imported it then. I would have dragged the entire thing onto the timeline and played it, and then use the timeline down the bottom of the sequence to trim it, to cut it down. So is that okay to do it that way? Is it preferable to? It seemed like you had a little bit more control doing it up the top than you did down the bottom. So why that approach?
Yeah, it's really up to you, like how you want to do it. And sometimes I find that doing it, like you say, you can get a bit more control. If you're working on a complicated timeline and you're worried about like, you don't want things to change the duration too much, you've got to be careful about how long it is. Maybe because, Instagram has said your clip can only be 15 seconds. And so then you maybe want to like be very careful about what you choose by setting the in and out point and getting only the right amount. But you're right. Another way of doing it is if you drag it on here, one of the nice things about doing it like this, and I'll just very quickly expand it, is that I can see the audio. So I can see that here's a take. So I can just move the scrubber up here.
Hello, my name's Ian.
Or I can see that there's a take here.
Hello, my name's Ian.
Now I can see there's a take here.
Hi, my name's Ian.
Okay, it's enough, Ian. Thank you.
I like that you went from hello to hi, and you're like, yeah, no, it's hi. Hi's the one.
Hi. Yeah, It's meant to be a kind of exciting company, and I thought that would be an exciting way to greet people. So yeah, there's different ways of doing it. The other way that you might, like if you've got a ton of footage, maybe very, very long takes, putting it all on the timeline, maybe it's going to make your timeline very, very long, and you'd prefer to do it up here. Another little thing to bear in mind as well is that you can actually see the waveform. We won't worry about that just yet. It's getting a little bit too technical. So you can choose the in and out point from by double clicking it, and then setting the in point by clicking on this button, moving it, and then setting the out point, and then you're only going to be editing in that section.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm going to try that approach next time for sure.
Yeah, it's pretty great. And the other one is that's probably why we're on this one, is that you also have an in and out point on your timeline as well. So similarly, here we go. So we've got, if you think about like this window down here is where you put your clips, and this window up here, the program, is where you see the result of what you've done down here. So this timeline and this window are related. They talk to each other. And so as you can see, if I move around here, you can see that this picture in the program is changing. So this one is staying the same. So you've got a relationship between this timeline, and that's like a preview of what you're creating, if you like. Now, you also have an in point and an out point down here. So if I knew that I wanted to put a 1 second of a clip in here, I could put, I'm going to change this to say, I'll get it exactly, use the left and right arrows to go nudge, nudge, nudge. And you can see the time of my timeline is changing every time I press the left and right arrows. So I can go 1 frame at a time. I've got it to 8 seconds. I'm going to put in an in point here, and now I'm going to move it to 9 seconds, get it close, and then I'll use my cursor to go to 9 seconds, and then I'll type mark out. So that's going to be roughly 1 second, almost 1 second, slightly more than 1 second. Now, when you've got 3-point editing, what that refers to is where you've set either an in point and out point up here, and an in point, one in point or one out point here, and it'll figure out the other one for you. So I've just effectively made that sound really confusing, but I'll show you what I mean. If I know that I want to put, let's take the monkey, and I think, okay, now I really want it to start at this point. So I'll put the in point in here, and I'm not going to worry about putting an out point because I've already done it here. So it knows that this in point is matching up with this one, and it'll figure out the other one for me. So if I click the insert or overwrite button, it's figured out
very cool,
the last one.
Hi.
And it's automatically reset it. And it doesn't just have to be the in point. It could just be like, I say, like, I want the out point to be exactly when the hand leaves the frame. So I'll just set an out point, and now I press overwrite, and it's figured out exactly where I want it to be. So as the hand is leaving the frame, so it's exactly the same. Does that make sense? 3-point editing?
Yeah, that's cool. I really like that. We have a question from chat. Can you set multiple in and out points on the same clip and insert them at the same time? Like if you're trying to cut out arming and ahhing.
Yeah. No.
Great question.
No. It's like, I don't think that's possible. I don't know why, because it sounds like something that would be quite cool. I guess the closest thing that I could think of would be if you set like a marker and then gave that a duration. So something like, even that, I don't think there'd be sort of a way to do it. So you could have multiple markers,
right,
and then bring those in like one at a time. But no, I don't think you could set multiple in and out points in one clip. So just one in and one out per clip. Yeah, cool idea though. I think that could be a huge money spinner, much like leaves on things.
Leavesonthings.com.
Exactly. Okay, so now hopefully that's kind of made sense. And so we've got our first clip in there, and then you could let's do it the other way, the way that you were talking about, to get the next clip in there. So I'll just drag that clip in here. And one thing while I'm thinking about it as well is that you've got all of these big blue buttons here, and they're actually pretty important. So we've got V1. These refer to video 1. This is audio 1. And when I drag that in, it put the video on V1, and it put this audio on A3. And that's because that button corresponds to this track, and this button corresponds to this track. So if I hit undo, what I can do is just press that button and that button, and now when I drag it in, of course it's not going to work. I'll drag it up here instead. No, it's not going to work either. Go insert, and it's done what I wanted it to do. So those are like the destination, if you like, and they call it in Premiere, it's called source patching. So you've got when you start to get a little bit more sophisticated and using multiple tracks and layering things and so on, you need to know about these. For our purposes, all I want to kind of think about is if I turn off A1 by clicking it again, and now there's no audio. So if I drag that in, it's only bringing in.
So if you want to just bring in video, like if you know there's just going to be music behind this track or something like that, you can just deselect it. As you're dragging everything in, you don't have to manually go through, ungroup, and then delete, which is what I've always done for the last 15 years of my life. Great. All right, stream over, everybody. That's all I needed to know.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right, I'm glad that's quite a breakthrough. So that's how you kind of control. It's like the destination. So in this instance, you could probably hear me saying action to my daughter who was putting the leaves on the monkey. And so we don't want that in the final edit. So I just turn it off. And when I come back to doing the outro, which will be up here, that's when I would turn it back on. And that's drag it in, it'll bring in the audio as well.
Oh, I love that. That's super useful. Good to know.
Yep. So in this instance, we will drag the entire clip. So there's no in and out point. We'll call this the Flynn Tracy style of editing. And when I drag this, now I've been dragging it to the timeline. As you can see, if I drag that, I want it to go in front of the monkey clip. But if I drag it in, it's going to overwrite the monkey clip. That's bad because we like the monkey. So in this instance, what I'll do is I'll turn off A1 because I don't want the audio. And instead of dragging it to the timeline, I'm going to drag it over here. And you get this little special overlay pop-up menu, which is super cool. And it lets you choose how you want to insert this clip to the timeline. So in this instance, we could say insert before, and it's automatically, let's undo and press V1 down here so that it comes in on the same track. Insert before, and it's just put that whole clip in front of the monkey.
Cool.
Insert after. Did not do what I expected it to, move the timeline over it, and then go insert after, and it's it hasn't overwritten the monkey, it's just put it after the monkey. So that's a kind of a really nice way of doing it. And then insert, depending on where the scrubber is, if I choose insert, then it's just going to make space by pushing everything down the timeline, which is super handy.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's like quite a hidden interface there. Like I never would have expected that to live up there.
Yeah. And once you get the hang of it, it's just cool. It just looks cool. I like it. It looks, I don't know, it's pretty profesh to me. So we've got the entire laptop clip in there. And so now I'm thinking, well, that's all well and good. How am I going to chop it down? Because it's a bit long for our purposes. So first thing I'll do is zoom in on this because I'm a little bit zoomed out. You can use these little guys down here. Just drag. You can see that little bar with a couple little circles. By pulling those together, you zoom in on what you're looking at.
Cool.
Yeah. And now there are so many different ways to do it in Premiere. This is one of the beauties of this program, is that there's just so many different ways to skin a cat, forgive the expression, but it's like you can do everything with in and out points. You can do it in the timeline, you can drag things, or if you like, you can do it like this, which is dragging things directly in the timeline. So if I move my cursor over the beginning, you'll see that it changes from a little pointer to a red, sort of like 4 arrows pointing each way, and that's called the roll tool. You can also, I haven't mentioned it yet, but we've got tools over here as well. So you can get a lot of these things over here. So rolling edit tool, I beg your pardon. So if I click on that, hold down, I can choose the rolling edit tool manually. So what we'll do here, move over the edge, click and drag. And as you can see, as I'm dragging in the program monitor up there, it's actually showing me what is happening to the video. So if I drag to the right, I'm trimming it off more, and if I drag to the left, I'm trimming off less. So I'm editing the video duration and the in and out points directly in the timeline. If I let go, then it's chopped off all the beginning.
Right.
But it's important to know that it's still there, so it's non-destructive. If I move over it again and click and drag to the left, it all comes back.
You can bring it back. So if you make a mistake, you watch it back again, you're like, oh, it was a bit too quick or whatever. Yeah. You can always just go back and re-roll it.
100%. And so it's a really nice way of trimming. It's very, very quick and easy. Just drag over there, go to the end, and then I'll just move the headline, the time scrubber, until I find a point where I'm like, oh, that seems like a good point to cut. And then I can drag it over this way as well. Nice. Another nice thing about Premiere is that it snaps. So as I drag to the scrubber, I get these little snap at the top and bottom, and it snaps into place. And so it knows that I'm probably wanting to move it directly to the scrubber, to the time scrubber, and it will just snap into place and makes it much easier to do precision edits.
So is that something that you will do? You do the scrubber first, so you kind of line it up, scrub along, go, yeah, this is where I want my next kind of cut or edit or, outro to be, or the end of this clip, and then drag it across and just wait for it to snap, because you've already visually done it, and it's better to do it with the scrubber first and then bring it across. Yeah,
there's so many. I guess it'll sort of depend on what you want to achieve at that moment in time. But when you kind of get a lot faster, I actually use the Q and W keys a lot, which does the same thing, but you just press the keyboard. So I get it to here, I press Q, it'll chop off the start. I come over here and I press W, and it chop off the end. So you don't even need to pick it up and move it at all.
Q and W. So, okay, cool.
Q and W, yeah. And then there's lots of speed ups like that. It's very like I said, so many different ways to kind of so many different ways to achieve what you want. And now I can see there's a big hole here and there's a big hole here, because I haven't really been thinking about how these clips fit together. So as you can see, if I press play, there's a massive hole, and then there's another massive hole, and then we get to the monkey. So that's not cool. There's a couple of ways that you can fix that. I could just pick that up and drag it to the left, pick that up and drag it to the left as well, and now there's no more holes. Or there's even, which I won't be able to find because normally I have it mapped to a shortcut. I'll search the menu, delete, rip or delete tracks, gaps. It's called something like that, where it'll just delete all the gaps for you. Close gap. We go sequence. So if I go sequence, close gap, and it's gotten rid of all of the holes automatically. It just basically, it's gone like, oh, there's a hole there, I'll just close that up, and it just shimmies everything together so that everything butts up perfectly, and gets rid of all that dead space.
And did you say that you normally have that kind of map to a keyboard shortcut because you use it that often, so it's that useful that you just have it mapped to a shortcut?
I would have everything in my life mapped to a keyboard shortcut if I could. I'm just a keyboard. I long for the day when I don't need a mouse or a Wacom or anything. It's just all keyboard, and I'm not even looking at the screen. It's just like nirvana. But it's, if you are ever interested in like mapping
Hi.
keyboard shortcuts in
my name's
Premiere, then it's got this amazing, like you can just map everything to your heart's content. It's absolutely incredible, and it's a great little reference as well. If you're doing something manually and you think, there must be an easier way to do this, you can sort of see down here before we selected the rolling edit tool, you can see that that's just mapped to N on the keyboard, and V is the selection tool. So I could just toggle between those. Right now it's selection. If I press the N key, it switches to the rolling edit, and if I press the V key, it switches back to the selection tool. So it's Premiere will let you map virtually any feature to a keyboard shortcut, which is like pretty appealing to a nerd like me.
That's pretty cool. Have a silly question. What are your thoughts on mechanical keyboards?
I like them. Yeah, I bought my daughter one. It's very clacky. She loves it. It's great. But I don't have one. And I think maybe one day, as long as it's got enough sort of function keys on it, then yeah, I'd be pretty happy with a mechanical keyboard.
I've downgraded to a little ducky one, which I quite like. The ducky
keyboards. Little ducky keyboard.
Yeah, I'll show you. It's called ducky. But yeah, I'll show you. My keyboard went from about like this big down to about this big.
Right.
Just the essentials. It's pretty cool. It's not great for typing, but it's really good for shortcuts and games and stuff like that.
Oh yeah. No, I'm all about it. I mean, if I've got a lot of typing to do now, I just use transcription anyway. So, but anyway, so this is kind of we're getting getting closer now to having the perfect edit for our business. I could then another kind of edit is, and we pull this in here, ripple edit, also under that pop-up menu. So I can see that maybe it's got me grinning like an idiot for a little bit too long there. So if I move over here, you can see that it changes to a little yellow cursor. If I click and drag, I can pull the end of the out point of that clip and it will automatically close the gap
that's cool.
behind me. Yeah. Whereas if I'd done the same thing with the rolling edit tool, what that does is it will move it'll move the out point of this clip and it'll move the in point of this clip. So you can roll between the two. So it sort of looks a little bit like this.
That's really cool.
I hope that makes sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the ripple edit ripples. It does that, and then it does a ripple delete, so it closes up the space behind, which might be what you want, and saves you having to do another step of closing up all of those gaps.
Yeah, and you might have like 5 or 6 or even 20 different clips, and you just want to close that little gap, and this way you can just move them all along with you, which is really cool.
Big time saver. Another one which is absolutely fabulous is the slip tool just down here, the Y on the keyboard. Why not? And then if I move over this one, you can see that icon is different as well. And what this does is I can see that the monkey is taking too long for the leaf to come in. Like if I play back, it takes a while for the leaf to come in and then it gets out too quickly. So if I click on this, it like moves the in point and the out point, but it leaves the clip in the same place. So I can see dragging. There we go. Maybe that's a good point there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So that's called a slip edit. And the other one, which is worth knowing about, is slide tool. So in this instance, I could just click on this one and drag it, and that just moves the whole clip and automatically extends or shortens the clip before and after it as well. So that's one huge advantage, I think, of editing in the timeline like this, is that you get to use all of those tools. I guess the in and out points when you're setting it in the source window is great for some circumstances where maybe you know exactly the frame that you want to cut on, and you know the duration and so on. But I really love the versatility of having all of these, like rolling and rippling and sliding and slipping and all of those kinds of things that you get in the timeline. Means that you can be very creative with how you're cutting your footage.
Yeah. No, that's super cool. And hey, just letting you know, and also chat as well, we've got about 10 minutes left, or maybe a bit less, maybe 9 minutes left.
Okay.
Someone's used the slip tool on our time remaining. And yeah, so we've got about 9 minutes left today.
Okay, cool.
As we roll along.
Oh, that was nice as you got rolling there as well.
See?
So
Yeah.
I'm going to just show you right now. If we quickly go back to the one that we were making, Leaves on Things Complete, you can see that I've done it in the square format because we're going to use this on Instagram. And because I shot it portrait on my iPhone, everything is portrait, so it's not square, it's too tall. So what are we going to do?
You got to start from scratch, right?
Yeah, so we're just going to sell our computer and become farmers because this isn't working out for us at all.
Yeah.
But wait a minute, I have an idea.
Okay.
Here's the sequence that we're working on. If I right click on that one, and it's got all of these different options in here, one of them is called sequence settings.
Okay.
Load that one up. So when I dragged the clip onto the new sequence icon, it made a new sequence that matched the dimensions and the frame rate of the source clip. That's great. That's helpful. So it's got that's the frame rate that my iPhone shot. But you can see here, frame size, it's 1080 pixels by 1920, which means a ratio of 9:16. So what I can do here is just double click on 1920. I'm just going to type 1080, and that will mean that the ratio, if I press tab, is 1:1 or square.
Cool.
When I hit OK, it says, "Are you sure you want me to do this?" And yes, I'm sure. Click OK, and now it's cropped it.
Nice.
So
does it just center it? Is that how it will just default to kind of the center?
Yes, it does.
So the same amount of top and bottom. Yeah.
Precisely, which might be fine or it might not be fine. Maybe you're worried that you're not seeing enough of my forehead in this
Needs more
shot.
forehead. Yeah.
So I'm going to. Here's another part of the interface which we haven't looked at yet. If I click or drag over this initial clip, and I'm like, I need to see a bit of my hair. So with that selected, I'm going to come up here and I'm going to look at effect controls. And just before we go into that as well, it's worth noting that you've got all of these different workspaces under the window menu. So if your screen if you're missing everything or it doesn't look quite how you want, go up to workspaces, choose a different workspace in here. So I've made a whole lot of my own ones, but Adobe ships it with a bunch of common configurations. So editing or coloring or working with audio and so on. And this is just really handy because then you can always reset. I'm going to go reset to save layout, and that was a save layout, so nothing changed. But then you know that you can, if you're missing a panel, you can't find something, you can go up here and choose a different workspace and get yourself back to familiar territory very easily. I'll go to all
I've definitely
panels.
done that where I've popped out menus and removed something, and I've tried to snap it back in and it hasn't worked, and I've just rather than throwing my computer out the window, I've just gone back to whatever the default is.
Yeah, take a deep breath and press reset workspace, and it is marvelous. So in this instance, we've come back here to we were going to move the position of this one. So with that one highlighted, I'll come up here, go to effect controls. There's a tab up there, and that is revealing all of the properties of this clip in the timeline. Now, it's important to know that this clip in the timeline is independent of the clip in the project manager. So it's really just talking about, like, what do you want to do with this, not the original clip, but the one that we're using in the timeline.
Right.
So if I come in here, then I could say, here's the position. I can just hover over one of these numbers. There's my X coordinates, my Y coordinates. So that's like left and right, that one's up and down. Click and drag, and then I can just move that, and there's
easy.
Whoa, yeah.
Oh, he's gone. He's back.
He's gone. Whoa, whoa.
Yes, that's really cool. We were talking a little bit before about working non-destructively. It seems like After Effects, more so than even some of the other apps, like, is really set up to be non-destructive, to kind of save you. Hasn't, you know, when it cropped in, it didn't delete anything above or below in everything in your sequence, which seems like it could be really handy.
Yeah, definitely. It gives you the freedom to experiment and know that, you know, you can always, if I go back into the timeline, and so that was the intro one, if I drag a fresh copy out from there, that's completely, I could go in here and go crazy with, I don't know, like the scale or what have you. So there we go. I've changed the scale. I could change all sorts of different like parameters in here. I've changed the rotation as well. But the original is still there. And you can actually just...
I like this, a tilted version.
I mean, it's original. I'll give it that. If I go in here and I decide that isn't for some reason what I want, I right click on it and choose remove attributes, and I can say, oh, I just want you to get rid of everything so it comes back to normal, and there you have it.
Oh, cool.
So it gives you the freedom to experiment and play around and know that you can always go back to a clean slate, which is extremely comforting, I think.
Yeah, it gives you a bit of room to experiment and everything as well. So if you're getting stuck in there, you're not going to press the wrong button and destroy your computer or anything, which is always good.
No, yeah, it's very good. It's preferable. So, so that's how much time we got left? Not much time.
About 3 minutes, I'd say, till we need to say
3 minutes.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess
what can you do in 3 minutes?
So let's have a little recap. So the main sort of panels that you're working with down here, the project is the project manager, and that's where all of your assets live. So, you know, whether it's footage, your sequences live in here. It could be sound effects, it could be music, it could be titles, or maybe you've made some cool.
Oh, we may have lost Ian for a second there. See if he comes back. Oh, Ian has frozen. Well, that is, as we're wrapping up, let's see if he comes back so we can say our goodbyes.
From the project manager.
Are you back? Sorry, we did lose you for a second there.
Oh, okay.
But you're back.
It was the best bit too. And up here, we've got the source window. So if I double click these, this is where you can sort of preview the clip before you do anything to it. So you can see it in and out points and then edit them straight over here. And finally, for the main panels, the program is where you see everything come together. That's where you see the results of all of your hard work on the sequence and the timeline, and you get the preview up here.
Cool. Very good. I love it.
Yeah.
Super cool. So we've got like a minute left or so. So maybe we should chat about what we'll be doing on Thursday. So we'll be back for part 2 on Thursday. We'll pick up where we left off. My guesses are we're going to be talking about like adding music, maybe some transitions.
Yeah, that's right. There's a very rich library of transitions there. We've got music in here. We've got we can talk about ducking as well, which you were talking about your ducky keyboard. In this instance, ducking is where Premiere automatically lowers the volume so that, you know, if you're speaking, it'll lower the volume of the music so that you can hear the speech. And then when you stop speaking, it'll automatically put it back up again. So it makes your videos very professional and cool. We've also got some titles over the top, very, very, very simple titles that we can see about how to, as you can see, we've sort of got a new track on top here. Also using Essential Sound to optimize your audio, make it sound great, make your speech sound great. And I also brought in a different asset here, which I've created in, I think, Illustrator or something like that, and put a pretty sweet transition on there.
Oh, that's cool.
So, yeah, we'll be, and also a bit of a fade at the beginning. So we can look into those bits and pieces on Thursday as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much. That does take us to time today. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, hanging out with us. Sorry we have to leave, but we'll be back on Thursday. And Ian, thanks for everything. Thanks for hanging out with us.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks to the viewers and thanks to you and Johanna. It's been fun.
All right, we'll see you all on Thursday. Bye.